Trustee Hallwax.
Here.
Trustee Listner.
Here.
Trustee Miller.
Here.
Trustee Mulvaney.
Here.
Trustee Rubin.
Here.
Trustee Vree.
Here.
Okay, our first order of business is consideration of the minutes and the approval thereof of the December 19th Committee of the Whole meeting and the December 19th Village Board meeting. Are there any corrections or questions with respect to the minutes? If not, may I have a motion to approve both the Committee of the Whole and the regular board meeting minutes?
Second.
May I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Hallwax.
Yes.
Trustee Listner.
Yes.
Trustee Miller.
Yes.
Trustee Mulvaney.
Yes.
Trustee Rubin.
Yes.
Trustee Vree.
Yes.
Okay, we're at that point in the agenda where we ask if there's anyone in the audience that wishes to address us on a matter that is not on the agenda. Chris?
Thank you. My name is Chris Cohen. I have something I'd like to hand out to you because I won't be taking very much of your time. I've lived in this community since 1987, and I've been on the caucus 4 different times. And I hear a lot about, not only about pensions, but from candidates and other people, but about the things your roles are spending so much time on the budget. And I have a job professionally where I am an administrative law judge for the county and where I'm a hearing officer for the city of Des Plaines, which is represented by the same law firm that represents this village. And on the first page of the document in here, you see several municipalities. Some are home rule, some are not home rule, but they all have an administrative hearing program, and they all bring in lots of money so that we don't have, so that you can spend it on whatever you think is appropriate, but it doesn't have to raise real estate taxes for the amount that it brings in. This city, this municipality is the only one around here that has not developed one of those programs. If you look inside the first one with the typing on the front, you'll see it 1 page or 2 pages from each of the websites of those municipalities saying something about their administrative hearings program. Some people may think that you have to be a home rule municipality in order to have an administrative hearings program, and that's not true, and I haven't been able to convince everybody of that, but I can give you one example here. Number 7, Brookfield is a non-home rule. It does break it up into the police cases and into the housing cases. The second packet has the statutes, but Mr. Olawat can do a much better job than me, but I've listed here, taken out of the statutes, statutes that relate to municipalities for home rule and also the ones that are not home rule. To have one of these programs, you have to organize it slightly differently, but it isn't very hard for good lawyers like we have here to do that. One of the reasons, among others, that this is helpful is if somebody gets a ticket or your neighbor gets a ticket, let's say it's $100, and if you, or it's a parking ticket, just $100 for a nice round number, and it goes to Skokie Courthouse, there are so many amounts of money taken out of it that the municipality gets very small percentage, let's say 12 or 15% out of the dollars out of the 100. If you have a program here, the rent's free, because presumably this is where it would be, and you pay lawyers on contract a pretty low amount of money, and the highest is Highland Park. You're welcome to go ask them how much they pay. There's a large amount of money that flows into the municipality's coffers, and I think that you should develop that program here. I have put in this, you'll see in the bottom half of this page here, what laws, dockets, decisions. I've put several of each of those in here to be illustrative. The first one is an agreed administrative order on page 4. There's one where the person was fined a good deal of money, and we worked out, not we, but the lawyers worked out a settlement of $5,000, and the person was paying the municipality $5,000. When you have ones like that, which is not typical, that starts to add up to real money. The next one is,
I would mention we only give 3 minutes on matters not on the agenda, so I wanted to speed you up a little.
thank you.
And then,
I'd be glad to, you have enough talent already, but I'd be glad to work with any of you who want to talk about it. It's a program that will save all of us every time I pay my property taxes, even though I reduce them myself because I do that for a living. It's, I think that we should put this program in.
we will read this with great care.
Thank you.
There was another gentleman that wanted to speak. Please state your name for the record, and I would again mention that we allow 3 minutes for a speaker on a subject not on the agenda.
My name is Tom Weaver. This statement is on
Yes,
behalf of my wife, Sarah. So let me go ahead and read it. My name is Sarah Weaver. My husband, Tom, and I have lived in Glencoe for 19 years. I attest and affirm that the following statements are true, accurate, and within my personal knowledge. I'm requesting a task force or committee be formed to educate the community about the dangers of 4G and 5G wireless telecommunication facilities, WTF, and how the village of Glencoe can transition from dangerous 4G, 5G to safe, shielded fiber optics. The residents of Glencoe deserve full transparency. The village of Glencoe has complete regulatory authority and can deny all WTFs under the 1996 Telecommunications Act. Please provide me with all applications, plans, permits, maps of placement locations for all 4G, 5G WTFs throughout Glencoe. Both Chattanooga, Tennessee, San Leandro, California have installed fiber optic cable throughout their cities to provide wired connections. The village of Glencoe can do the same. I have expressed no concern or any other non-substantive manner, but solely matters of fact and law. I appreciate your oath of office. Signed this 16th day of January 2020. And then as an adjunct to that statement, I do have another. Thank you.
My name is Stephanie Stiller. I live in Evanston, and just to sort of echo those sentiments, I really didn't know anything about anything. I just knew that I have a cell phone and my kids have cell phones, and I just want to share that I unknowingly have been living in a residence, and a cell tower was put up. I didn't even know what a cell tower was. Became very sick, thought I had a brain tumor, was at my doctor, vertigo, nausea. She ruled out everything, organic, told me to look to my environment, because physicians now are having become detectives, right? Because so many of us are growing up with all of these weird, they can't figure out what's wrong. So we look to the environment as we continue to progress with technology. Our environments are becoming more toxic. I brought someone into our residence, very high levels of radiation, simply turned around and there was a huge cell tower across. Again, I did not know what that was. This was not that long ago. So, I just think that we all need to be educated. Many of us are parents, grandparents, siblings. We all owe it to each other to just be very educated about what we're doing in our communities, because I think these are they're going to have long-term ramifications. We don't know who in this room will be affected. I certainly never thought I would be a part of something like this. I'm in the medical profession, and I suddenly feel like I'm in the twilight zone with this whole Wi-Fi. I'm here to tell you it is real, and I just ask you to do your due diligence, do your research before you approve something like this. There's not a lot of data, long-term data, that has been studied, that can be published, that can be shown to those of us considering 5G. We don't know what the long-term implications are. It's not benign. So I just urge you to make these decisions decisions with a lot of education moving forward. And I just wanted to share my story. So thank you very much. Have a great night.
Thank you.
My name is Nancy Perlman. I'm a certified health coach from Glen Ellen. I attest and affirm that the following statements are true, accurate, and within my personal knowledge. I'm here to talk about 5G. It's been rolled out in Chicago and is extending to the suburbs. The first of the pilots planned are in Hinsdale, Western Springs, Clarendon Hills, Naperville, and Schaumburg. Many people in those communities do not want 5G. The residents of your village require your transparency of what is going on with plans, applications, permits, or maps of placement locations for 5G here. Please list them on your website with the ability to sign up for email alerts. The rollout of 5G, if allowed, entails placing, constructing, and operating additional wireless telecommunication facilities, WTFs, misleadingly called small cells that produce the same pulse microwave radiation as a macro tower. The 20-inch waves penetrate deeply into humans and animals, especially babies and small children. The 2 to 4-inch waves target the primary organs such as the brain, heart, lungs, and genitalia. The millimeter waves target eyes, ears, and skin, and these are the lengths of insect antennas, ensuring the extermination of pollinating insects. Many officials have stated that their hands are tied by federal and state laws. It's not true. There are 2 new important judicial decisions. August 2019 NEPA review case. All WTF applications are incomplete until a NEPA environmental impact statement is submitted. October 2019, the FCC no longer regulates internet data, so preemption no longer exists. FCC only regulates voice transmissions. Last night, I attended the Stop 5G Hinsdale and Neighbors Town Hall information session for the Western Suburbs. At the meeting, the presidents for both Hinsdale and Western Springs said they're utilizing the court-mandated NEPA, National Environmental Policy Act, requiring an environmental assessment, EA, or environmental impact statement, EI, for every single WTF application. Western Springs had an application withdrawn by Crown Castle due partly to the requirement of a NEPA review. You can do the same for your residents of Glencoe. Our communities need to work together to stop all placement, construction, modification, and operations of new, recent, and applied for WTFs. You must regulate WTF operations on the basis of health effects. Let's have no more WTFs where people sleep, live, and heal. Finally, fiber optic cables already in place were financed with public money. They reside in public conduit or on poles in the public rights of way and can't lawfully be claimed or used by unregulated private wireless companies as if they were private property purposed for private profit. There's a lawsuit on January 17th in the DC Circuit Court of Appeals addressing the subject. If you provide public FTTP, you can make money for Glencoe. Consider what San Leandro, California did, installing fiber optic cable throughout their city to provide wired connections. Check out bitsandro.com for more information. I've expressed no concern or any other non-substantive matter, but solely matters.
Thank you. If you want to submit something in writing, you may, but your 3 minutes is up.
Yes, this is my testimonial, and this is from Western Springs. This is when, what they sent.
This is one part.
Well, for that, and then what I just read, I have to anchor.
Mr. Weaver, I wanted to just ask, I know that your wife, Sarah, had asked that we call her when we're at the point of public comment, as she was not able to attend. Is that still the what she would like us to do, or is your testimony this evening replacing that?
Yes.
Okay.
Is there anyone else that would like to address us this evening on a subject not on the agenda?
Is it appropriate to have some discussion about other electric topics?
Hmm?
Is it appropriate to have some discussion on other electric topics?
Sure.
I'd like to the presentation of the idea of using this facility for the Court of Appeals. That sounds like a new way to generate revenue as a non-home rule community. Something that we haven't heard or talked about before, the revenue option.
We did talk about it,
Okay,
but
great. And did we make a decision that that was
no.
a good idea or not? So maybe that's something we could consider in the future.
And when you say court of appeal, it's administrative
Adjudication.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Just
right. And I would agree with you. We should continue to look at that. Okay, any other discussion? All right, the next order of business is committee reports. In the committee of whole today, we had a presentation by the staff to us with respect to the results of the survey that was conducted recently, that we had a report on aspects of at our last meeting, and today's discussion with the committee of the whole was regarding the survey feedback on questions of governance involving the village. And that's what we did in the committee of the whole. Jonathan, we did not have a finance committee meeting today, but perhaps you could give us a discussion of the treasurer's report
Yeah.
for the month.
So we're 10 months through our last fiscal year that ends in February. And as we've had for the last several months, we are on track with revenues coming in a little ahead of where we were last year, but really at about a level that we expected through our budget process. Expenses are coming also a little higher than last year, but once again, similar to what we expected through budgeting. The only fund, that's all general fund, so the only fund where we are coming in a little less than expected is in water. It rained a lot this year, and so there was less water used from the water plant. But all in, the year has really gone as expected. We have 2 months left, but it looks like it will be a year very similar to what we have expected.
Thank you.
That's the report.
Excellent. Barbara, do you have anything new to report on the Plan Commission? I know you haven't had a meeting this month.
We have not had a meeting, and the only thing I know for sure is that the Plan Commission meeting scheduled for February 22nd. 26th will not take place then. It may take place on March 4th, but I'm not sure we know that yet.
We're in the process
Okay.
of reviewing that. That date is Ash Wednesday, so we wanted to make sure not to overlap, so we are looking at alternate dates for that meeting. Dave, is there going to be a Plan Commission meeting in January? I know that was being discussed.
Targeting the 29th.
Okay, so there will be one this month. Okay.
Which would be the 5th Wednesday rather than the
Yes.
4th Wednesday.
Right.
Okay. Trustee Hallwax, anything to report on the Golf Advisory Committee?
So after a rather challenging year with weather, it's nice to be able to have a very positive report today. So due to the mild weather in December, there were 786 rounds played in December, resulting in over $20,000 of unbudgeted revenue. The Glencoe Golf Course was the only golf course open in the area for play. I can attest I tried to play on December 26th, and it was packed, which was music to my ears. Over $2,000 in gift cards were sold during the holiday season, and due to payroll and expense savings, and also the unbudgeted revenue in December, the estimated net operating income for the year is $280,000, excluding capital expenses. And the next meeting is on this Monday, the 20th, at the golf course.
Thank you.
Why are we the only ones open? I mean, I'm happy, but
Because Stella's fantastic. No, I mean, there's a handful of up in the western suburbs, but around here, I think they shut down and
okay. And you,
And other
Well,
golf
thank you.
courses don't have Stella, who's on very good talking terms with the man upstairs, so she can have good weather in December when she needs revenue.
She's working on the calendar.
okay, great.
All righty. Trustee Mulvaney, can you tell us what's going on with the Sustainability Task Force?
We didn't meet last month because it was scheduled for December 24th. Is that right?
Mhm.
So we did not meet last month. We are meeting this coming Tuesday, and that's everyone's opportunity to participate in creating helping us meet our mission of making Glencoe the most desirable and sustainable community in the universe. We did have homework, even though we didn't meet. When we last met in November, we did all have homework assignments, and that was to do some more research around our application of the Eco District program and what that will mean for Glencoe. So in our next board meeting, we look forward to reporting much more detail about what this nebulous term means and trying to make it a little bit more real for the rest of the trustees. So that's going to be our focus in our next meeting, is reporting out from our past 2 months of individual research efforts. That's the report, and I look forward to next month telling you more.
Thank you. All right, Village Manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a few items to report out on this evening. The first is more of a public service announcement. Staff was informed late last week that the Union Pacific Railroad is going to have to close the Park Avenue crossing beginning at 9 a.m. this coming Thursday, January 23rd, so 1 week from today. That will be closed for just about a week, expecting it to reopen late in the day, Wednesday the 29th. Vehicular traffic is going to be detoured to the Maple Hill crossing on a little bit further north on Green Bay Road, and then pedestrian traffic will be rerouted to the crossing at the Glencoe train station. You may have seen 2 massive message boards that went up today. Those were put up at the village's request by Union Pacific. We didn't necessarily think they were going to find the biggest ones they could find, but they certainly get your attention. So we hope folks take heed of that. We were also advised by the village of Winnetka that one of the staircases at the Hubbard Woods station is closed to pedestrian traffic due to some concerns with the structural integrity. Union Pacific's going to be looking at that, and they will reopen it as soon as possible. But a couple of, if you're trying to get down those stairs, you may find yourself unable to do so. The Booth Cottage, there will be a public meeting coming up on Tuesday, January 21st at 7 p.m. That's this coming Tuesday. That is the Park District Board of Commissioners meeting. And this item will be on the agenda. They'll be discussing a land use agreement with the Historical Society regarding the potential relocation of the cottage, which is currently located at 239 Franklin, to the Park 7N site, which is at the intersection of Maple Hill and Franklin Roads. If the agreement is approved by the Park Board of Commissioners, work will then commence to relocate the cottage in the coming months, after which the Historical Society would plan to complete an extensive restoration. Over the last 6 or so months, and in partnership with our own Historic Preservation Commission staff, has been working to support this possible relocation. From our vantage point, this is a very positive step in the right direction, and I'm hopeful that this structure is going to remain in Glencoe and allow us to keep our standing as the community with the 3rd largest number of Frank Lloyd Wright designed structures in the world, which is a statistic we don't often tout, but a pretty important one. So I do encourage folks to review information that will be posted tomorrow on the Park District's website relative to the plans that both the Park District and the Historical Society will be presenting next week. I'm going to be attending that meeting as well, should there be any questions relative to the village. I did want to make note of the fact that while it's still January, we're making plans for the spring, and if it's spring, it means the Tudor Court Street Streetscape Improvement Project is going to kick off. You may recall the board approved a contract for that project back in August. Bonds were let last year, and resources are available for that project to kick off. Next week, we will be sharing project information as we know it at this point with the businesses that are located on Tudor Court. We'll be sharing further information as it becomes available with them as they will be the most impacted. As parking and traffic flow may be impacted as well, we'll be making sure to outreach to our business community throughout the downtown. We anticipate an April 1st start date on that project and hopefully finishing up in the middle part of July. And we look forward to that project finalizing. A related topic, next Tuesday morning at 7:30 a.m., we will have our quarterly Business Before Hours event. We will provide some information on the Tudor Court project at that meeting and encourage all of our business community to attend. There are 4 meetings of the Business Before Hours group, which is headed up by our business services team here at the Village. Those other dates have been set for the remainder of the year, and in addition to January 21st, we'll be looking at April 21st, July 21st, and October 20th. And so encourage the business community and anyone interested to put those dates in their calendars. Finally, St. Paul AME Church will host their annual Martin Luther King Jr. celebration on Sunday, this coming Sunday, January 29th, and it begins at 2 p.m. The event takes place at the church, which is located at 336 Washington. They've been doing a lot of outreach, encouraging everyone in the community to attend, and we'd like to extend that invitation on their behalf as well. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
I have one question. The cottage, will they be able to sell that if they are successful in relocating and rehabilitating? Will they be allowed to sell that as a home or to any other purpose, or then to maintain that in their possession?
My understanding as the land use agreement, I have not seen the most recent version, is that the Historical Society is taking ownership of the house and they will utilize it for their purposes under a land use agreement that they sign with the Park District. There will be some provisions under which they will be required to abide in terms of hours of operation and things of that nature, but it will not be a private residence.
Well, it isn't now, but I'm just wondering if there's a restriction on them selling it to become private residence.
If there is, and again, I don't have the agreement in front of me and I haven't seen the final version, my understanding is that if for some reason the Historical Society is unable to maintain it, it would revert to the ownership of the Park District.
Is there any ongoing cost to the village for this house?
There is not that we're aware of, nor have we been asked for formally following the community grants discussion that took place back in December. But I am I am aware of the fact that there are sufficient resources to undertake the move and renovation of the cottage by the Historical Society. They have secured private donations to accommodate that.
That's great.
And thank you for helping with the preservation of that. So I know that was a lot of work on your and staff.
Thanks.
Thank you.
It's a good outcome, very good outcome.
All right. The Northwest Municipal Conference is having its legislative brunch on Saturday, January 25th at 10 a.m. at the Hilton in Northbrook at 2855 North Milwaukee Avenue. And I want to invite all of the trustees. I've already twisted Trustee Gary Rubin's arm, so he's going to come. And I want to invite all of you, if you would like to attend that, to come to the legislative brunch. If you wish to come, please let Phil know so that we can tell the Northwest Municipal Conference how many people we will have. Our next village board meeting will be Thursday, February 20th, 2020, and I'm going to be out of the country at that time, so I would ask Barbara to nominate as our temporary president pro tem to preside over that meeting. Poor Gary Rubin, who has to now go to the legislative brunch, and then he can have the fun of getting ready to run that meeting.
I nominate trustee Rubin to be the temporary president for our February meeting on February whatever is.
20th.
20th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Our next order of business, if he survived getting that honor and all the work that's going to come with it, is the consent agenda. Is there anything on the consent agenda that anyone wishes to discuss or take off the agenda? If not, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, please?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Hallwax.
Yes.
Trustee Listener.
Yes.
Trustee Miller.
Yes.
Trustee Mulvaney. Trustee Rubin.
Yes.
Trustee Vree.
Yes.
Excellent. Turning to regular business, let me just give a sort of capsule comment of how we're going to proceed on the items on regular business. The first 6 items, being items A through F, are all components of the stub year 2020 budget that we've been going over in our Finance Committee and Committee of the Whole meetings, and that are now the result of the input that we had at that time. I'm going to ask Nikki Larson and whoever she might want to have with her do so to present on the entire package to us. And then after we've had that presentation, I'm going to open up and have the public hearing as to the appropriation ordinance, which is item A. And then once we have closed that, then I'm going to ask for a motion to consider passing the entire package as an omnibus package. So that's the order we're going to go through, just so everybody knows. Let me, for the record, go through what the items are that we're talking about, A through F. The first one is the public hearing and consideration of an ordinance making appropriations for corporate purposes of the Village of Glencoe for stub year beginning March 1st, 2020 and ending December 31st, 2020. Item B is consideration of an ordinance adopting the annual budget of the Village of Glencoe for all corporate purposes for the fiscal year commencing March 1st, 2020 and ending December 31st, 2020. Item C is consideration of an ordinance reestablishing the fiscal year for the Village of Glencoe, obviously to a calendar year. D is consideration of an ordinance amending Chapter 35A of the Glencoe Village Code as amended pertaining to the imposition of a places for eating tax. E is consideration of an ordinance amending Chapter 35A of the Village of Glencoe Municipal Code pertaining to the imposition of a local motor fuel tax. And the last, item F of this package, is consideration of a resolution amending the comprehensive fee and fine schedule. Nikki, would you go through and tell us how all those pieces fit together?
Thank you. As President Levin mentioned, the package before you has been the result of 6 months of public discussion in our Finance Committee. I'd like to thank the Village Board again for your time, your patience, and your feedback, and all of the tireless work that our staff has done over the last 6 months. The first of the items before you is the stub year 2020 appropriations ordinance. This is required by Illinois compiled statutes, and it does allow the village legal spending authority for the items as they are laid out in the budget. The way we calculate the appropriations ordinance under statute is the total of each of the budgets per fund, and then 10% is added to that. That doesn't mean that we would exceed the budget necessarily, that just means that that would be our legal limit of spending. The next item on the agenda is the 2020 budget ordinance. This can now be found online in its entirety, and it's also been included in the packet. In total, the budget for the village's operating funds, excluding the pension funds, is $32,921,026 in revenue and $30,768,102 in expenditures. When adding the village's public safety pension funds for both police and fire, those numbers become $36 million in revenue and $33 million in expenditures. And just a side note, the village has very little control over those two funds as those are statutorily controlled. There is a one-time use of general fund reserves in the budget. That's to fund approximately $2.2 million in planned capital improvements throughout the village. And also included in the budget is $53.7 million in planned capital improvements as part of our community investment program. And just a reminder that plan does include the $2.2 million in capital that we're planning to draw down from the general fund. And that is just a plan. So we will be reviewing that every year with the village board to see if anything has changed in terms of priorities. Okay. And there were several new concepts introduced as part of the fiscal year change. This year, we did create an account called Planned Fund Reserves. This is to more transparently reflect to the public our intention to strategically use fund reserves. We do have a fund reserve policy, and everything that has been included in the budget is in line with that policy. We are, and along those same lines, proposing a structured use of one-time reserves for a general fund transfer for the capital projects fund. That's in the amount of approximately $200,000. There's also a reservation of funds for future use. This year we are proposing a road program reserve. That's a portion of our revenues that we are setting aside for future capital improvements, specifically for the road program. And also the Starcom radio reserve, which will be a significant equipment replacement program that we do anticipate within that 10-year window. And then lastly, and perhaps the most importantly, is the fiscal year transition. This budget does represent approximately 10 months of expenditures. It has made it very difficult to compare to previous years because in many cases we are receiving a full year's worth of revenue and 10 months worth of expenditures. So as part of that, we have also included a contingency budget to ensure that we are reserving 2 months of that full year's worth of revenue to carry over into the next year. The next item included in this packet is the stub year 2020 comprehensive fee and fine schedule. This chart reflects some of the proposed changes that were included as part of the budget process. There is an 8% proposed increase in the water rate and a 10% proposed increase in the sanitary sewer rate. Both of these rates are directly tied to planned capital improvements that we anticipate within the 10-year window. And these are recommended to be self-sustaining going forward. And this is a rate structure that we'll have to continue to evaluate on an annual basis. We're also proposing a 1.9% increase in the general collection services fee. This is related to our garbage collection services and funds improvements that are needed as a result of the garbage collection process, and also our annual leaf collection program. The golf club rates are going up about $1 to $2 depending on the rates. They're still a huge bargain in the range between $18 and $44. And then we have some new fees that are proposed as part of this year's budget. There will be a water system compliance fee. This $100 fee is aimed at gaining compliance with a mass meter changeout that's coming as part of this budget process, and also to ensure compliance with the village's inflow and infiltration with our irrigation systems throughout town. There's also a utility bill termination notice fee of $25. This is to cover the village's cost associated with tagging homes in relation to water service termination. And the last two items I'll go into in more detail, the places for eating tax, as President Levin mentioned earlier, and also the local motor fuel tax are proposed at 1% of sales. The places for eating tax ordinance has also been included. We've already received several questions about this, so if the board will indulge me, I would like to explain how this would work. As proposed, the places for eating tax is a non-home rule tax that would be imposed on 1% of sales of prepared food and beverage. And I have a note down there at the slide that this would only apply to establishments that have a seating counter or an area to consume food on premise. The way that the tax would be calculated is essentially very similar to what businesses are calculating already when they pay their sales tax. It's just one extra step. This is collected locally, so we will be administering this program in the finance department. We as a staff, actually I'd like to recognize Assistant Finance Director Joseph, who's already been working diligently on this with me, are preparing comprehensive documents to help educate the business owners in town of what this will mean for them and how it will work. If it is approved this evening, we also plan to hold local meetings as well to allow individuals to come and ask questions. This can be a little complex if you have a smaller organization or a smaller business, so we do want to try and make this an easy transition for everyone, which is also why we are proposing that this will be effective July 1 to allow for that time period. Similarly, we are also proposing a local motor fuel tax. As the board may recall from our budget discussions, this was recently authorized by state statute and allows municipalities within Cook County to impose a local fuel tax on the sale of gasoline of 3 cents per gallon. This would also be effective July 1, 2020, also to allow for any changeover in point of sale systems that needs to occur, and also the educational component. One thing that I do want to point out on the local motor fuel tax is that this is remitted and collected by the state of Illinois. So this is also subject to a slight administrative fee. And that's something that unfortunately we cannot avoid. And at this point, I'm happy to answer any questions on any of those items.
Questions?
I think it would be difficult to determine that at that moment, and would also vary based on the business. I think our goal was to diversify that impact.
Other questions, comments? No. Anything else? No? Okay. At this time, I would like to open the public hearing on item A. And I would invite anyone who wishes to comment either on item A or any other part of this package to do so as part of the public comment time. Is there anyone that would like to address the board about anything in this package? If not, could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
May I have a roll call?
Trustee Hallwax.
Yes.
Trustee Listner.
Yes.
Trustee Miller.
Yes.
Trustee Mulvaney. Trustee Rubin.
Yes.
Trustee Vree.
Yes.
Okay, I would now like, is there any further comment, or are we ready to vote? Could I have a motion to approve items A through F as a omnibus vote on the entire package as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Hallwax.
Yes.
Trustee Listner.
Yes.
Trustee Miller. Trustee Mulvaney. Trustee Rubin.
Yes.
Trustee Vree.
Yes.
Thank you. The next item of business to come before the board is consideration of a supplemental appropriation ordinance and corresponding budget amendment for fiscal year 2020, beginning March 1st, 2019, and ending February 29th, 2020. Nikki, would you like to tell us what this is about?
Okay, thank you. Not to be confused with the, I guess this should say fiscal year supplemental appropriations. Not to be confused with the stub year. This ordinance and corresponding budget amendment is amending the current budget. Similar to this year, last January, we passed an ordinance very similar to this. Throughout the year, there are issues that occur that are not anticipated. Revenues come in higher than we think, and expenditures come in higher as well. So the ordinance before you reallocates funds as needed throughout the budget. there are funds available for all of the adjustments that we are making with the exception of the water fund. As Trustee Bree indicated earlier, the water fund has suffered from record rainfall and corresponding low levels of irrigation, which has less impacted our water revenue. So we are proposing the use of $45,000 of water fund reserves to fund additional expenditures in the current year. This will be taken into consideration as we consider water rates going forward, but we're not concerned about this recommendation at this time. I'm happy to answer any questions on any of the adjustments.
Okay. Any questions for again this? If not, may I have a motion to approve the supplemental appropriations ordinance and the corresponding budget amendment for 2020, for fiscal year 2020?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Hallwax.
Yes.
Trustee Listner. Trustee Miller.
Yes.
Trustee Mulvaney. Trustee Rubin.
Yes.
Trustee Vree.
Yes.
Okay. Does anyone have any other business to come before the board this evening? If not, may I have a motion to adjourn into closed session under Illinois Open Meetings Act, Section 2C11, pending litigation, and Section 2C1, performance and compensation of the village manager.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Hallwax.
Yes.
Trustee Listner.
Yes.
Trustee Miller.
Yes.
Trustee Mulvaney.
Yes.
Trustee Rubin.
Yes.
Trustee Vree.
Yes.
We are adjourned into closed session.
Steve, I need one more signature. Okay. Last one. Give that to you downstairs. Okay. Yes, Steve.